Has the era of Superman 1,000,000, one of the most powerful future versions of Superman, finally arrived? I'm Andrew the Geek Master, and in today's video, we'll break down everything that happened in the first issue of the new Man of Steel comic, Superman Unlimited. The chapter begins in Metropolis, showing the start of a new era for the Daily Planet. Lois Lane, now the editor-in-chief, was overseeing the complete transformation of the newspaper into a multimedia empire whose news would reach every city, from Gotham to even Themyscira. Imani Edge, the new owner, was introduced as the person responsible for this ambitious leap. The ex-wife of Morgan Edge and a mogul in her own right, she made it clear that while other billionaires were battling diseases or climate change, she had chosen to fight what she saw as the true modern evil: disinformation. Expanding the Daily Planet to various cities and social platforms would be her way of facing that threat. During the meeting, she challenged those present to understand why this was the right decision. Clark Kent responded firmly, reaffirming that the newspaper had always waged a constant battle for truth and justice. Cat Grant and Ron Troop, two of the reporters, grumbled about branding strategies, but Imani assured them that all final editorial decisions would belong to Lois Lane. She offered the new chief total control, reminding her that with just one gesture, she could become the most powerful woman in the world. Lois was preparing to respond when Clark quietly picked up a distress call with his super hearing, and within seconds, he slipped away discreetly. Imani, surprised, remarked to Lois that her husband had walked out at the most important moment of her career. Lois, unfazed, explained that ever since she became editor-in-chief, Clark had taken on the role of lead reporter for the Superman desk. In other words, when Superman was in action, Clark was working too. And at that moment, both Clark and Superman were doing their jobs. And indeed, Clark vanished in a streak of red and blue lightning that crossed the sky, leaving behind the traditional shirt-opening gesture that revealed the iconic symbol on his chest. An emergency call was in progress. The police were chasing a vehicle whose occupants were using futuristic weaponry, reporting over the radio that Intergang was attacking with ray guns. One officer even called urgently for backup. Just when the situation seemed out of control, backup arrived. Superman. In seconds, he stopped the speeding car, restrained the criminals with a metal pipe, and handed them over to the police. One of the thugs, before being taken away, asked for a moment with the hero. He recalled that the previous week, Superman had stopped a giant gorilla from destroying Star City, which, in this case, was Titano. The man thanked him, visibly moved, explaining that his aunt lived in the city. Superman accepted the thanks with kindness and took off. The other criminal, embarrassed, scolded him for the emotional display, but the first man defended his feelings. The aunt Superman had saved was his favorite. Next, Superman was drawn by another cry for help. A desperate mother called for help at the zoo, where her child had fallen into the lion's enclosure. Fortunately, the hero appeared just in time, firmly subdued the animal, and safely removed the child. He then headed to a plane in free fall, calmed the passengers before saving them, and afterward responded to a burning building, and then to a drifting ship. After a frantic sequence of rescues, Superman hovered above the city and for a brief moment noticed the silence. There were no distress calls, just the normal sounds of Metropolis. It was in these moments that he felt most alive. But the silence was interrupted by something different. The sound of a girl singing in the park, and curious, he descended. The young woman was playing guitar and singing with great delicacy. Superman discreetly placed some money into her guitar case and complimented her. He said he kept up with all the new music out there, and hers was genuinely good. He also told her he wanted to hear more from her in the future, and the girl thanked him, surprised by his kindness. These human moments were what made Superman so extraordinary. It wasn't enough to just save planes and burning buildings. He also offered hope and encouragement to ordinary people. He inspired courage, faith, and above all, dreams. He wasn't just a symbol of power, but a silent reminder that every life has value, and that every gesture, no matter how small, can make a difference. However, at the Justice League Watchtower, an urgent alert broke the silence. The voice of the station echoed through the communicator. An extinction-level event was underway. A massive asteroid on a direct course toward Earth had just been detected. All of the League's heavy hitters were off-planet. Only one name remained: Superman. From above, the hero heard the call and responded immediately. Meanwhile, at the Watchtower's command center, Green Arrow, Black Canary, and the Elongated Man were searching for answers. They wanted to understand how something so massive had escaped detection by Red Tornado's sensors. Red Tornado explained that the surface of the asteroid was made of a thin layer of neutrons, which made it invisible to conventional radars, a rare material only expected to be mined in space in the 31st century. The question wasn't why it was here, but what to do now. Impact was inevitable unless Superman could stop it. The hero flew straight toward the colossal object. As he approached, he realized the outer layer was just a disguise. The neutron coating was thin, less than 1 micron, and underneath it was something far more dangerous: solid kryptonite. In an instant, the truth hit Clark. The impact wouldn't just destroy cities, it could wipe out all life on Earth. It was too late for any elaborate plan. He had underestimated the threat. Worse, the kryptonite began affecting him immediately. His body burned with pain, but he knew he couldn't hesitate. He was flying against a toxic mountain, destined to extinguish life on the planet. In a matter of seconds, it would rip through the atmosphere, and the destruction would be total. He needed to redirect it, to push it with everything he had. Before acting, he located the predicted point of impact: Rio de Janeiro. More than 16 million lives. Every heartbeat was audible to him, and they were all counting on his intervention. The effort to stop the asteroid was unbearable. Superman had never felt such pain. Even so, he maintained the pressure, trying to alter its path. In the process, flashes of his life started flooding his mind. The destruction of Krypton, his arrival at the Kent family farm. Back then, things seemed simple, until the day his powers began to emerge. First, heat vision. Then, the ability to fly. He remembered the advice of his father, Jonathan, who, even with doubts, believed in his son. He told him the world might not be ready for his gifts, but that didn't define him. The powers were just one part. What mattered was who he chose to be. Clark remembered the moment his father revealed his true origin, taking him to the barn where the spaceship that had brought him from space was hidden. It looked like just a regular object, but it was his connection to Krypton. The instant he touched the ship, dormant memories surged forth. His native language, the construction of the Fortress of Solitude, his genetic legacy, his history. It was all there. As he fought the asteroid, Clark also envisioned Martha sewing his first suit, and his parents encouraging him to embrace both his earthly and Kryptonian heritage. They believed he could use all of it to make the world better. He also remembered the moment he met Krypto, his loyal dog from Krypton, and when he joined the Legion of Superheroes, witnessing a universe full of possibilities and hope. These memories gave him strength. He recalled the first time he saw his statue in the future, a monument dedicated to the greatest hero in history, and how he reacted lightly, asking if he'd have an eagle in the future. Even surrounded by grand legacies, he was still just Clark, trying to be the best he could. His journey was made of choices. He decided to learn everything about both his worlds. He built the fortress, joined the Daily Planet, faced Lex Luthor for the first time. He met Lois, and there, in those early encounters, he was enchanted. He admired her courage, her tenacity. It was in that moment that he knew he loved her. The memory of Lois helped him endure. He revisited the moment he proposed to her, the battle against Doomsday, his death, and the phase when others took his place. But Kryptonian science brought him back. A second chance. He returned to life, reborn. And with it came Jonathan Samuel Kent, his beloved son. He fondly recalled how much it meant to have him in his life. He and Lois were everything to him. As he pushed his muscles to the limit, trying to redirect the asteroid one last time, he thought of John. In his mind, he asked his son to tell his mother how much he loved her, to remind his grandparents that they had been the best parents anyone could ask for, and that, if this were his end, he was at peace. Because he had lived a good life, because he had loved deeply, because he had tried, above all else, to protect. Tears streamed down, and the Kryptonite seemed to be winning. But even when everything pointed to the end, something changed. It's true that Superman fell, and the impact was brutal. The Kryptonite had overwhelmed him, and the last son of Krypton vanished beneath a wave of silence. But then, against all odds, he woke up. Still dazed, he murmured that he was alive. But he didn't understand how, or where, or when. Before he could organize his thoughts, he was surprised by Krypto, who jumped joyfully on him, relieved. Professor Haley came in right after, explaining that the hero hadn't left the bed for weeks. Superman wanted to know where he was. Haley answered, in the Justice League Watchtower's medical wing, and more importantly, he had been out for 3 months. The revelation was a shock. Clark asked if Lois and his family were okay. The professor only smiled and said there were a lot of people eager to see him. In the next moment, Lois, Jonathan, and Martha came rushing in, emotional. Lois said that, even from a distance, she had been running the Daily Planet remotely during his absence. Clark, impressed, commented that she had always been capable of anything, and she smiled. After all, she was Lois Lane. The reunion was full of affection. The family hugged him. His father arrived shortly after alongside another Clark Kent, who was actually the Martian Manhunter, posing as Clark in Superman's absence to protect his secret identity. His Justice League friends gathered, all happy for Superman's return. Everything seemed to be returning to normal, until Batman silently approached and said there was something Clark needed to see. Led to an observation room, Superman was instructed to use his telescopic vision combined with X-ray vision. Batman pointed to a specific region between Brazil and the fictional Corto Maltese. Superman observed carefully, and what he saw left him stunned. A new nation had emerged. The place was called El Caldero, a newly formed state now among the richest countries in the world. In just 3 months, it had become the largest supplier of a new, rare, and absurdly valuable resource, Kryptonite. The global economy had changed, the balance of power as well. The world was now different. Superboy Connor Kent, with a cast on his arm, and Supergirl, visibly bruised and injured, entered the room, bringing an even more alarming picture. The new reality was dangerous for all super beings. Kryptonite was now in circulation everywhere. The League of Assassins, the Cult of Cobra, Intergang, they all had access to the valuable mineral. Missions had become more dangerous, threats more unpredictable, the heroic life heavier. Clark listened silently. He said they would need to find a way to deal with it, and with a smile he joked that maybe, in the end, a little more difficulty was what everyone needed. Superboy, incredulous, commented that it was easy to say that when you had a secret weapon. And then, realizing Clark still didn't know, he looked over at Batman. Without a word, the Dark Knight walked to the control panel, snapped his fingers, and activated the light spectrometers. The room lit up in spectral tones. In that moment, the truth was revealed. 3 months earlier, a mountain of kryptonite had fallen on Superman. It should have killed him. He should have been poisoned, burned, disintegrated. But something changed. He had endured, survived, and more than that, evolved. His body was now beginning to emit a golden radiation. His skin reflected light like liquid gold. The transformation was underway, a new phase, a new level. The suspicions were clear. Superman might be entering the era of Superman 1 million. For those who don't know, Superman 1 million is a mythical version of Superman from a distant future, shrouded in mystery and immeasurable power. Now, that power seemed to be awakening in Clark. The implications were still unknown. What had caused this mutation? What did it mean to be covered in golden energy? Was it total immunity to Kryptonite, a new spectrum of abilities? It was too early to say. But one thing was certain. He had changed. When Superboy said it was easy for Clark to handle this world because he had a secret weapon, he meant that the new secret weapon of humanity was Superman himself.